If you were to sum up the single principle of what we have learned in the previous Maimer, it would be that that which comes from an etzem, even though it comes begilui and it's no similarity to the etzem, it's a functional element, even a ha'ora. It remains connected to the etzem. Connected to the etzem means that it recognizes that what really gives it a real substance is the fact that it comes from the etzem. And thus, it carries along and retains what's called the koyach etzem, the principle and the power of the etzem. It retains the power of the etzem. And on our level, what does this mean? That we discussed over this weekend, members on Shabbat. What it means is that just as the etzem is indestructible, the oil is indestructible. And it will pursue its purpose and its direction regardless of what interferences there are, what the circumstances are. Because it has an etzem koyach behind it or in front of it. And this is why the oil also is called tzelem elikim, the tzelem etzem, which means it's reflective of the etzem, but it's only oil. There's no comparison whatsoever. Like we say in our moshel, the sun and the sunlight. The sunlight relative to the sun is really a functional union. It illuminates. This is so to speak, it's greatest accomplishment. The sun is not illuminating. The sun is light in essence. It brings the whole phenomenon of light into the world. It creates a new reality. The world as such is dark, and the sun becomes a new reality. Not illuminating darkness, a new reality of light of being as a reality. And yet, the sunlight carries with it the element of sun. Not just the function of illuminating darkness, but an element of sun per se. So that even in the place of darkness, when the sunlight illuminates, there's a cognizance that there is such a thing as real as the essence of light. Even though all that reaches here is only the light, not the etzem. And this is identified in the fact that we have a period of day. It's not just light, day. Day means that it is an entity unto itself. As we discussed many, many times. What is Yom? Yom is just darkness illuminated. How is it an entity unto itself? He says, no, Yom is purely light. Even though underneath that there is still the essence of darkness. but the light eliminates it completely, to the point where you say, no, I own this period of time. Like we mentioned, the place says, "Lemshalas hayim," and so forth. Okay, so having an inkling, having this principle, we can go on further in the next minor. Ve-ayle tilashitza ben Avram elides Yitzchak. To translate, this is the first pasuk of the next seder of Pasha Teildes. These are the Teildes. The word Teildes means, we translate normally generations. But Teildes has other subtle meanings, results, the effect. Yitzhak ben Avram, Yitzhak the son of Avram, hated this Yitzhak, Avram gave birth to Yitzhak. It's exactly what the pasuk says. Seems to not only redundant, but meaningless. We need to understand Yitzhak ben Avram. The first thing about the pasuk says Yitzhak ben Avram, Yitzhak the son of Avram. It should have said simply, these are the births and the generations and the effect of Yitzchak. Yitzchak himself must mean Yitzchak ben Avram. As we see by Yankiv later on, you see what it says, Eil is Yankiv. It doesn't say Ben Yitzchak. Why over here it says Yitzchak ben Avram? And then furthermore, what is the further statement in the pasuk? Avram hated this Yitzchak. Yitzchak ben Avram. Once that the pasuk says Yitzchak the son of Avram, what is the additional point that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak? Okay. This is the first obvious analysis of the pasuk that shows there is something contained therein. Rashi writes, Toil dos Yitzchok. What is the word Toil dos Yitzchok referred to? Yaakov ve-Esav ha'amurim beparsha. That refers to Yaakov and Esav who are amurim beparsha, that are later on mentioned in the parsha. We need to understand what does Rashi teach us with this. In simple terms, there are, as I said, there are multiple ways of understanding the word Teildes in the Torah. Going back to the beginning of Beis, it says El Teildes Hashemayim v'haaretz v'hiboro. El Teildes over there doesn't talk about birth Shemayim v'haaretz. It talks about the development of Shemayim v'haaretz. Over here it says El Teildes Yitzchak ben Avram. Rashi says Teildes Yitzchak ben Avram over here does not refer to the development and the effect of Yitzchak ben Avram, but the actual generations, the actual offspring of Yitzchak ben Avram. So, what does Rashi teach us with this? To understand all of the above, we have to again reintroduce and revisit what we already discussed previously in the previous minor. The Tzalmeinu, that Tzalmeinu hu bechinas tzura atzmis. That Tzalmeinu is the aspect of tzura atzmis. At this point, these words should have some sort of a meaning to us. And the other discussion a little bit more over here. Let's say I'll review from before. The tzura, because tzura, which means a form, Ho bechinas ha'oir ve'hagil. This is the aspect of oir and gil. That's what a tzura is. Like when you say the face of a person. The face of a person is not the person. This is how a person is revealed, and how the person, but going on internally, a person shows up externally. So this is from the oir and gil. Shenikro tzuro atzmis. And this oil in Gilui is called tzuro atzmis. To translate accurately, the word tzuro atzmis would mean, as we discussed in previous minor, a tzura that is representative of the etzem. Meaning to say that this etzem and this tzura go together. This is how this etzem appears on the outside. This means tzuro atzmis. And once we have this translation, then we have the question, the hagam, that although, and the point of saying that oir gilui tzuro atzmis is a big novelty. The hagam, that although the ha'oir hu be'ein arech klal legabe ha'atzmi, that although the oir is totally not in proximity to the atzmi, be'ein oy gam bebchinas gilu min ha'atzmi. Let me first explain the previous words. Oir be'ein arech klal legabe ha'atzmi, which we already learned and discussed, but again, similar to what the introduction to the day's shir. Like we said just a moment ago, sun and sunlight. Sunlight has the quality of light because it illuminates, because of its functionality. Sun has the quality of light not because of its effect, not in a functional level, because of what it is. And these two states, these two levels, are really be'ein arech, what's called be'ein arech. There is absolutely no comparison between them. A functional element which exists only because in a place where there is the value of the function, where it can have an effect. If it doesn't have any effect, then it doesn't exist. Etzem is an entity unto itself, not dependent on the fact that it has an effect. To drive this point home, so to speak, and in a meaningful way, the difference between the human being in the world and everything else in the world, the animals, everything else. Everything has a certain functional purpose of being in the world. The human being is there as for his own sake. The human being, that makes the world into a world. Take the human being off, and there is no world. So there is no proximity. There's no way to compare, to correlate and say this is similar to this. It's not similar at all. Even though in the Torah the animals are called nefesh chaya, the human being, the Adam, is called nefesh chaya. But Rashi immediately can explain, but this is a different kind of nefesh chaya. It's a completely different kind of nefesh chaya. This nefesh chaya is not dependent on world to tell it, oh, he's alive. He's alive independently. And this is what we're saying, the oir v'agilu yitzura atzmis. Although eir and gil and atzem are be'ein areich, there is no way to correlate and say they are of similar qualities. The einoi for oir is not gam b'bchinas gil min atzem. Oir is not even in the state of being referred to as Gilum min Etzem, a revelation from the Etzem, as we explained in the previous Maimer. Etzem does not have Oyer initially. And I will review this a little bit because this is a little bit of a challenge for us. Because if we talk about, let's say, the sun, which is an etzem behiri, and inherently has an oir, but l'maylo etzem does not have oir. What is the significance of that? It has oir and doesn't have oir. So we'll discuss it in the sun, and then we'll go to the Mailam. Even though in the sun does have oil. Now it's initially, the sun is able to illuminate. And to the extent that the sunlight emanates from the sun automatically. It's not by decision, the sun is there and the light is there. Automatic. So therefore, sun and light is the same thing. Yet, we understood, as I said before, light is only a functional element of the sun, and sun is an etzem. But it is nevertheless correct to say that this functional element of light emanates from the sun. What is the meaning of that emanates from the sun? The sun is an atzmi. It doesn't care whether the light shines and doesn't shine. As it says, the sun doesn't care whether the light reaches the earth or it does not reach the earth. It's interfered. The sun is unto itself. Nevertheless, we say that the light emanates from the sun. The meaning of that is that the sun has a definition of what it is. Not functionally, but what is sun? Sun is etzem behiri. Etzem behiri has an inherent functional quality. What does that do? What is that? Not that this limits the sun, that only if it illuminates then it is sun. It is a sun in essence. But what does sun mean? It has a definitive place, a definitive presence. And the definitive presence is that it is light. Therefore, inherently in the sun there is a functional element, even though it's not dependent on its functionality. But when you talk about atzmus or lakus, there is not an inherently functional element at all. It's beyond function totally, beyond existence, behind oil, behind gili. This is what we say, the oil is not even rooted in atzmus. It does not even come from there. Because etzem, what atzmus is, the whole phenomenon of oil, phenomenon of function doesn't even exist. Beyond saying it depending on it doesn't exist. The fact that there is oil coming from atzmus is not coming from atzmus per se. Because atzmus doesn't have a functional quality. It's coming from atzmus because atzmus wants it to come. This is why we say the oil is not even a gili from the etzem. It's not a nimshach from the etzem. And if oil is not nimshach from the etzem, how can you then say that this oil is a tzura atzmis? It's not reflective of the etzem at all. Okay, the question is very clear, I think.
That was a major question of the last mimer.
Last mimer, right. Now it's brought out in a very, very brief terms. The kitzur is always very, very challenging. What exactly is he saying, you know? We can always elaborate, but what do these words mean? The Ayin gam bebchinas gilam in etzem. Oil is not even of the quality of, it doesn't even stand for gilam in etzem. The komokom yet still.
Gilim etzem would be from the son of neshama. That is under the quality of gilim.
Right, and gilim in etzem. Even though neshama, like we discussed, neshama is volitional. The neshama could withhold its gilim, and it can allow it to come. But when it comes, it is neshama that's coming. What's coming? That which neshama stands for. Nevertheless, yet still, because that this oir is tzura harishena, is the very first form, very first statement. Shemin ho'atzmis, from the etzem, yesh bozeh koyach ho'etzem. Therein there is the koyach ho'etzem. This is a challenging thing to understand, but as we discuss it at great length in the Maimon back and forth, it has a koyach ho'etzem. It stands, it has a koyach ho'etzem. Even though it's not etzem at all. It is there by choice. It's not imperative that it should be. It's other etzem. But being that this is tzura rishena, which means that, as we said, should the etzem reveal itself, this is how the etzem will be revealed. Which means it's reflective of what etzem is. Therefore, it has the koyach of the etzem. As we said just a few moments ago here today, what does it mean, koyach etzem? It means that just as etzem is an essential reality and it's indestructible, it doesn't depend on anything, this oir has that quality with it. Because it's reflective of, it's a tzura rishena of the etzem. Even though it doesn't have to be. But when it is reflective of the etzem.
It's like a stira.
Huh?
Basically like a stira.
It would sound like a stira. It's not really a stira. It's just very subtle. What does it mean, koyach etzem? How does it get koyach etzem if it is not reflective of the etzem? It's not, the etzem doesn't have this whole phenomenon of gilui.
The answer is that if the etzem were to reveal itself,
and this would be the first thought.
which would be reflective of this.
No, because this would not be reflective. Because this would be the first thought. Therefore, it has the koyach of the etzem. It's not reflective of the Etzem.
And being the first thought, it has
it has the koyach of the Etzem. That is the koyach of Etzem.
Sounds like you're saying that. And that's must not be what we're saying, but it sounds like we're saying that the Etzem has is some way compelled to that this should be the first thought.
Nothing compelling in the Etzem that it should be any oyer altogether.
Well, there is.
Has the koyach of the Etzem, but it's also called surah. So
it's surah because it's a gift.
Surah Atzmis, which means that it's a surah that has an Etzem quality.
Koyach of Etzem. The Etzem does not have the quality. That's what the Rebbe uses the word koyach of Etzem, not quality. There's no quality in Etzem.
What's the difference? I mean, what's the nuance here in koyach of Etzem?
That's what he said. Koyach of Etzem. One aspect of koyach of Etzem, it's indestructible. Oil can be destroyed, can be blocked, can be redirected. Koyach of Etzem means it is what it is. You can't interfere with it. There is not a place where this oil is not. The difficulty of it here is the koyach Etzem is not to live in Chad Abis is Tzura Yishayna. How is that reflected on the Etzem? That is the subtleness of this thing. Like we said many times, you come into your home. You listen to your own home. When your presence is in the home, in every less crack and cracks, everywhere, you're there. But when you're there, this is your gila, your Etzem, or Oyer, Etzem Akil. The difficulty over here is to understand the principle of Tzura Yishayna. The difficulty is because since it's not compelling that there should be oil, so what is Tzura Yishayna to change everything?
Is it what?
How is Tzura Yishayna change it? How to make it Etzem, Koyach Etzem. That is the subtlety of it. In the Kriyashmi it says, "Mishinantam levanecha v'dibartam bom." Like when you should teach it to your child, when dibartam bom, you should speak in it. So Rashi says that this means that she'etchilas diburei bom. That the first tchilas diburei, when the child begins to learn to speak, you should begin speaking in the ve-ayle. What is the significance of, and that's how he begins speaking. That beginning defines the reality of speaking to him. Even though he's going to be speaking all kinds of different other things. But that gives, what does speaking mean? This is what speaking means. This is what gives it a first definition. This is the significance of the Moide Ani when you first wake up. What does it mean to wake up? Wake up means to recognize that there is the Melech HaElokai. This is what it means to wake up.
So this first Gilui, this is what it means. A Gilui of the Edison. This is
right. It's not a Gilui Etzem, it's by Koyach Etzem. Because Etzem does not have Gilui.
You can't have a Gilui.
It doesn't have a Gilui, but it has a presence. But this makes a Keimshul presence here. Therefore, it has a Koyach Etzem. This is the extent to which it could be elaborated on. When he's boyer, and it was also explained in previous Maimar, Shezehu al derech bechinas, that this is similar to the aspect of Machshava Hagduma Diak. Machshava Hagduma, we explained, means the pristine thought, a thought that is reflective of Kduma. What's mean Kodum? Kodum means that which precedes anything. Not a creation. This is the big thing that we have to recognize and bring out in our sense of reality. What the Rambam says, there is a first being. In our orientation, there is no first being. Everything that we identify that exists, we always ask the question, where does this come from? But really, the union of real knowledge and real life is the first being. Machshava Hagduma. So we explained, how can Machshava Hagduma Di'ak, Odom Kadmon? How can Odom Kadmon be called Kadmon? That even though there is Bivchinas Odom requires us as Odom, and Odom is a composite of tens, therefore it's Mechudosh. It is innovative, it's a novel presence. It is not a pristine presence. Shenikro Odom de Bria de Klolos, that is called Odom de Bria, Odom of the level of Bria. But Bria of the Klolos Ho'elamus. Mekomo kem still in Yois, Shezeh Odom Horishen, Shezavam Eilin Soin Boru. Being that this is the first Odom that came to be from Eilin Soin Boru, the Haina Bechinis Mashov Horishen, which means the first thought, Hareze B'Tzelem Malikim. Therefore, it's Bechinis Malikim. Okay, we'll revisit this again, just want to conclude. Okay, this is it for this morning.
Ya 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 ya